Dr. Jeff, how do you see the United States in the end times?
When you look at Scripture, the prophets addressed many issues regarding the end times. The key to understanding prophecy is to look at the Middle East, specifically Israel, more specifically Jerusalem. And the prophets talked about, in the context of the latter years, the latter days, that nations will progressively become angry at this new state of Israel, this rebirthing of the state of Israel. And interestingly enough, the issue will primarily be over the city of Jerusalem. And if you look at the news, even today, what are they talking about? They're talking about who owns the land, what are we going to do with Jerusalem? And as the prophets address this topic, they talk about various nations that are involved. One of the more important prophecies, if I can say it this way, is referencing what is called the Battle of Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38 and 39. The rabbis look at this text and they believe that this battle, and when you read those two chapters, is very descriptive, defines who the nations are that will come against Israel in the last days. And they believe out of this war will come the Mashiach. Evangelicals look at this particular battle, the Battle of Gog and Magog, with the same interest, and they believe that this war is also a precursor to the coming of the Messiah. So you have Jewish sages, evangelical sages saying the same thing. Something very unique is about to happen. Today in Israel, the religious, the Orthodox, they believe what's going on around them politically is a precursor, the beginning of the development of this war. When you look at the text, it names the nations. It talks about a leader from the north, Gog and Magog, the prince of Meshech and Tubal. And anyway, it's a description of a leader from the north. And this leader of the north has a coalition of nations. And the prophet Ezekiel, 2,600 years ago, listed these nations. Now, the first nation listed is always the most important. If you have a list in the Bible, usually the first thing listed is most important. The first nation that Ezekiel lists is Persia. Persia is going to be the head of this coalition that comes against Israel. Persia, modern day, is Iran. Iranians will tell you they are Persians. They're not Arabs, they're Persians. They will tell you that very directly. And they have a rich history, a wonderful history. But this coalition will come against Israel. Now, where is the United States in all of this? The United States, at the end of the day, is basically an extension of the Roman Empire. Europe is an extension of the Roman Empire. Britain is an extension of the Roman Empire. We're an extension of Britain, thus making us part of the Roman Empire. The book of Daniel talks about the Roman Empire. And in the context of the latter days, the Roman Empire becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. And at the very least, the United States of America, scripturally speaking, will be part of a coalition, be part of the whole, the nations, as the scripture refers to. Oftentimes the prophets talk about and the others who are with the nations. So basically the United States is part of a global construct. And now here's the sad point of all of this. The scripture very specifically states that in the latter days, all nations will come against Jerusalem. Now, there's a biblical principle. You may recall Jesus saying that if you are not with me, you are against me. Even if politically the United States stays out of Middle Eastern affairs. Let's say Israel is attacked and the United States remains silent. The silence is in fact a response. If the United States withdraws, it is a statement of saying that we are against. So all nations will come against Jerusalem. The United States is Israel's only friend in the world today. And it depends on the political scene at the time what the United States will do. But the United States is part of the global community, and the scriptures unfortunately does say that all nations will go against Jerusalem. In other words, the world will blame Israel for the problems, of the world. And it's beginning to happen even now, even today. This is why it is so important for believers to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, to pray for the leadership in Washington, to pray for the leadership in Jerusalem. That if we are true friends of Israel, that we will do the right thing. So that's why it's important that we do pray. But as it pertains to the United States, we're part of the global community, and all nations will come against Israel.